All right, we're recording. And of course, my microphone's slowly dropping, but that's okay. I'll deal with it.
That's okay.
I
Well,
started recently listening to another dystopian novel, Fahrenheit 451.
okay.
I don't know if you've read that
Yeah, yeah,
one or heard
yeah.
about it.
I need to read it. It's on my list.
Honestly, it's scarier than Animal Farm, and I'm only 2 chapters in. And it's scarier
No, I've heard
because
scary stuff.
what's really funny is that this book has been banned before, just like Animal Farm, and it's about
Yeah.
censorship and uh
It's written by the same
censoring of
person, right?
ideas. I don't think so.
Pretty sure it's written by the same person, George Orwell. Hang on, let me look here. George Orwell. Yeah, I think he
No,
wrote it.
Ray Bradbury.
Yeah. Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah, 1953. Ray Bradbury.
Oh no,
Bradbury.
you're right. Yep, it's Bradbury. Yep.
Well, anyways, it starts off with this concept that firefighters no longer fight fires; they start fires because the homes have been completely fireproofed at this point. So the only way to actually burn a house down is to fill the thing with kerosene, basically. So the firefighters now drive around in trucks full of kerosene, and the normal process is that somebody is identified with contraband or illegal materials such as books. That's the big one so far, probably due to the fact that this was written in 1951.
Mhm.
But it's largely been books. They haven't. I mean, they've kind of mentioned the idea of motion picture and photos and stuff like that, but it's mainly books. Um, where historical books are basically portrayed as being written by fanatics who want to disturb the peace. And science
Interesting.
fiction or just purely fiction books are just nonsense. It's nonsense. Like, why would you invite something that makes you unhappy into your life when the thing isn't even real, basically? So their entire culture seems to and I'm only like 2 chapters into this, but their entire culture at this point, and it seems to be America, is my understanding. It may not be, it could be Europe. Um, but it seems to be that they took the idea of anything that makes people unhappy, um, just get rid of it, just burn it. So, maybe political factions makes you upset. All right, then we just take them away. We just give you one, or better yet, we don't give you any options. There is no political factions anymore. If there's any entertainment that might make you sad, we get rid of that. If there's monuments because dead people make people sad because that was somebody's relative, well, people that die get incinerated within 10 minutes or they get picked up within 10 minutes via helicopter. So once you're dead and that's reported, the body gets picked up and then it's incinerated. So in 10 to 15 minutes, that person is ash. There's no monument, no gravestone, no nothing. They're just gone. Anything that's unhappy in this world goes away. And the character that we're following, Montag, seems to be of the idea that there might be, he's heard rumors of other countries that are not as prosperous as they are.
Mhm.
And that actually struggle and have a hard time is like, but their culture is completely based on one of the crazy descriptions, actually, because we've talked about the short form media. One of the crazy parts is basically anything that was long, they started condensing it. So they took a 3-hour movie and they condensed it into a 15-minute uh reel of the best clips, and then they
Mm.
took those 15 minutes and they took it down to like 3 minutes and then to 1 minute, just to give you the best little quick snapshot of it, and you can move on with your day. Headlines and news
Wow.
articles are wrapped into like 2 sentences in a headline. That's it.
Mm.
And everything becomes super super generic so as not to offend anybody or make anybody upset or sad or mad. It just, and the description is that it's like, I think they said it's something like gray pudding, tasteless, but nobody's getting upset, and then
Mm.
everybody can move on their day without being upset. So it's
That's
been an
pretty.
interesting
Yeah.
beginning to a story right now, especially because it feels like it kind of correlates with some of our
That's
stuff.
pretty. I was gonna say that's pretty eerie, because that's pretty much it's exactly what's happening now, is that, we've pushed short form media to where you're not really getting the full picture, you're just getting a couple of sentences, and those couple of sentences are curated by people that don't want to upset anyone.
Hmm.
They don't want anyone to feel sad or hurt or offended, and so because of that, you're not getting the full facts because the truth often hurts,
Hmm.
um, and the truth is often very difficult. Um, I feel like I feel like at some point we definitely need to bring back book club. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
The one book
it
that we
would be
went through.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Animal
And
Farm was the
I'd probably
preferred one.
yeah, I liked Animal Farm a lot. It was really good, and if I'm being very honest, I don't have a lot of time to read, but I do have time for audiobooks, so I would be very interested, and I mean, I'd have time because I drive so much, and I know you fly so much, so I feel like that would be a good option,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
we'll have to talk about that at a later date.
yeah.
That's really interesting.
For now, we'll have to shelve it in light of, uh, I guess, Florida Governor DeSantis being upset with the hotel chain Hyatt
Yeah.
for hosting a
Yeah,
drag
so
Christmas party.
yeah, so let's kinda get into that because we know, Ron DeSantis has definitely been making the headlines for
Hmm.
sure, as Trump's Republican rival who is probably going to run for president. But
You
he
think he
has
is?
not said
He
he's
said
going to
no,
run.
basically.
He
Actually,
hasn't. I
I
don't
don't
think
even know if
that's
it's basically. I thought
accurate.
he's downright said he's not doing it.
He might have in the past, but I've heard that with interviews that he's done when he's been asked about this, is
Hmm.
that his response is definitely a politician's response of, "I'm just worrying about the people of Florida. I'm taking care of them," which is half true. He's definitely doing that, but that doesn't mean that he's not positioning himself to run for president. So I don't think we have a clear understanding of what he could be doing, but I feel like, and this is an opinion, is that he is definitely positioning himself towards that.
Okay.
That's just
Yeah,
my
I'm
opinion, though.
curious
I
how
could be
that'll run
wrong.
because that's two big Republican names running against each other that could probably break the party down more. And
It
I don't even know who's a
could.
good candidate for the Democrats right now.
The Democrats, my opinion, that it's probably if they have anyone that might be good, I think maybe
No, no, no.
Michelle
That
Obama.
okay, okay. I was like, I don't know what you mean by good here. You mean good for them or good in general?
Good for them. Right. So good for them because I think the Democratic Party has become so radicalized. If you had given a candidate like if Tulsi Gabbard had actually made it into the 2020 um, primary election, I
Hmm.
think I would have actually been interested in that Democratic candidate. But
Yes, I
because
would
they
have been.
leaned so radical, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying I would have been interested in her probably over Trump or any other Republican
Yeah.
candidate actually. Except for Carson. Carson was
Yeah.
still
I
my
mean,
number one
maybe.
pick. He didn't have the
Same here.
stomach, I
Yeah.
think, to run in this day and age. It's the last couple of races have been interesting.
They have been really interesting. And so I think 2024 is going to be a crap show. And so there's problems on the Republican side. There's a lot of problems on the Democratic side as well.
Hmm.
But that is neither here nor there in this case because Ron DeSantis is worrying about Florida. And we have a story coming in, and you know much more about this than I do, to be perfectly honest, Connor, about what he's doing there in regards to the drag the drag queen story hours, the drag queen brunches or dinners, or what on earth is going on with that.
Yeah, well, I don't know all the details, but I do have an article that goes over quite a bit of them that'll recount them in detail better than I will. But essentially, back in Christmas, there was a drag queen show that was put on in multiple cities: Miami, Fort Lauderdale, maybe Orlando. We might find that in the article actually. But it was put on, and it was advised to not bring children under 18 or people under
Okay.
18, because I mean, over 18 they're adults, so it's kind of weird to say children under 18. They're all children. Um,
All right.
so they say that it's advised not to, but they didn't prohibit it, and the events were very adult themed, and there were still children appearing under 16 years of age present in the audience.
Hmm.
So let me see if I can get my screen share up here.
Yeah, sure. And what article is it that you're reading
Uh,
from?
you're gonna get it on. You should have it on your screen now.
There it is. Okay. And for everyone at home, if you're watching this, if I'm looking off this way because that's where the screen is for me to look. So let's take a look here. So
Cool.
yeah,
So there's
Florida
actually
revokes.
I'm just noting from the ground news that of the major outlets, it's been a mostly conservative reported event, but it's also been highly reported by the left for probably different reasons. But
Interesting.
this one will give us a
Interesting.
nice
Okay.
a nice overview here. So, Florida revokes Hyatt Regency Miami's alcohol license after hosting explicit drag show attended by minors. Yeah, this is what I was looking for earlier. The state's Department of Business and Professional Regulation says the venue violated 6 statutes. I don't know if they're going to cover all of them here.
Okay.
This article is not terribly wrong or long. I'm going to read through it because there's a bunch of information regarding what happened, what they did, who showed up, and what the reaction's been from the departments in Florida. But Drag Queen Christmas took place on December 27th, 2022 at the James L. Knight Center, a venue connected to the Hyatt. Prior to the performance, the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation sent a letter of warning to the hotel's owner. Sexually explicit drag show performances constitute public nuisance, lewd activity, and disorderly conduct when minors are in attendance, the letter states. Accordingly, Florida's licensure laws provide strict penalties for licensees who allow minors to attend these drag shows at their licensed premises. DBPR added, if minors are allowed to attend this drag show, the department will take any and all actions available to ensure that you do not pose a threat to minors in the future. In response to the letter, the venue altered its advertisement for the show, which had initially been billed as an all ages welcome event, to state that minors must be accompanied by an adult. The revised information stated the show was recommended for audiences 18 or over. According to the DBPR complaint filed on March 14th, minors and children appearing less than 16 years of age were admitted to the event. The court
So hang on
filing,
a second.
yeah.
So 1 second here. So this is what kind of gets me that's confusing is that this venue, they get this letter of warning, and so obviously they've taken it seriously to some extent, but they're so scared of the woke mob that they're basically saying we recommend that you bring a adult with the
Mhm.
minor. So they're only like half complying with what
They were just
they've
doing
they've
enough
been
to try
asked to
and
do.
to try and skirt the legal ramifications, which turns
Okay,
out
yeah, that's
probably isn't going to be enough here.
okay, keep going.
Yep. Let's see. So the court filings detailed numerous instances of performers engaging in sexual conduct, simulated sexual activity, as well as lewd, vulgar, and indecent displays that include the exposure and rubbing of prosthetic breasts, performers intentionally exposing their buttocks, simulated masturbation through performers' digitally penetrating prosthetic female genitalia, graphic depictions of childbirth and or abortion, and on-screen video projections that contain a variety of sexually explicit content.
Oh
And
my
here, of course, we
gosh.
have a copy of the
Seriously?
administrative complaint, which we are not reading through that. But if anybody would
Yeah,
like
let's
to,
not do that.
there is plenty of information there for the formal complaint. The complaint further catalogs how the show presented sexually explicit themes in prurient content presented through perverted perversions of popular children's Christmas songs. One example included a rendition of All I Want for Christmas Is My Two Front Teeth that contained portrayals of fellatio and included the line, I'll sit on his lap, he can put his milk and cookies all between my gap.
That
This is the
is
type of content they
disgusting.
had while children were present.
That is disgusting. That's
DBPR's
disgusting.
filing also took issue with the performance of Screwdolph the Red-Nippled Reindeer, which included the lines, you know, Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen Vomit and Stupid and Dildo and Dixon. And then one soggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Screwdolph, with your nipples so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? The complaint includes...
Okay, this is also just bad writing too. It's excruciatingly
Nobody
disgusting.
said they
The
were
writing is
creative.
horrible. Yeah.
The complaint concludes by alleging Hyatt Regency Miami violated 6 sections of Florida state law, including exposing genitals, prosthetic genitalia, and breasts in a lewd manner, as well as simulating sexual activity in the presence of children under age 16, operating a place of lewdness, intentionally selling admission to an obscene performance to minors, permitting disorderly conduct in the presence of children, and operating and maintaining a public nuisance. As a result, DBPR is revoking Hyatt Regency Miami's license for sale and consumption of alcohol beverages. Sexually explicit content is not appropriate to display to children, and doing so violates Florida law. Governor DeSantis stands up for innocence of children in the classroom and throughout Florida, said DeSantis' press secretary, Brian Griffin, according to Florida's Voice. A Drag Queen Christmas which toured 36 U.S. cities in 2022, ended its run in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Orlando, and Clearwater. The tour was hosted by RuPaul's Drag Race Miss Congeniality winner Nina West. The stage name for performer, author, and activist Andrew Robert Levitt. West was the subject of some controversy in 2021 after working with Nickelodeon, the children's channel, to develop and perform in a Pride Parade sing-along for the children's program Blues Clues and You. The video, which is set to a variation of the Civil War era song When Johnny Comes Marching Home, portrays LGBTQ families with cartoon animal parents who are gay, lesbian, transgender, and non-binary. Might as well get the last one. We celebrate everyone that makes up our LGBTQIA plus community, West told EW regarding the Nickelodeon collaboration. It reminds all of us that we are integral for the fight for equality. My job is not only to provide a space for celebration and fun, but to reiterate specifically to my community that LGBTQIA plus are valid, worthy, and perfect the way they are. I will always continue to choose kindness and positivity and lead with love while educating people on LGBTQIA plus issues and equality. You sick bastard. You are a groomer.
That is no, like that is basically a porn show. Like that's basically what it is. Like I don't
It is.
really see any
No, they're akin
difference there.
to the drag shows are akin to go-go dancers, if you will, or quite honestly, it's yeah, some of them are getting up there on the verge of strip clubs. It
Yeah.
doesn't this
No,
one
that's what
seemed
I'm
like it would have
saying.
been more in line with go-go dancers since nobody was taking their clothes off, but considering they had all of those prosthetic genitalia and everything that they were mimicking, and
Yeah.
it's disgusting. So
You're simulating sex acts. Like that's what you're doing in front of children. Like they want children to come. That's the whole point of it.
mhm.
That's the point. Like let's not kid ourselves and say, "Oh yeah, this is really for adults." They're using adults' interest as a vehicle to have kids come as well. It is sick and perverted, and it
Well,
like
and considering
makes
they're
me like
trying to loop
throw
in
up.
pedophiles into their concordance of letters, uh, what is the new term for pedophiles? Minor attracted persons?
Right, which I'll
Mats?
always
Yeah.
just call them a pedophile. I'll
Yeah,
always
yeah,
call them a
yeah. I'm
pedophile. That's
wondering
what they
when the
are.
Mats get a story time too with kids.
Oh, that's coming. Like I think you're predicting the future there. Like I think that there is a strong chance that that
I think we'll see it in the
happens.
next couple of years at the
Um,
rate this is going.
I mean, I will say though, I feel like the height of insanity could lead to some level of sanity because we also had Netflix cancel a show about a non-binary bison. which I think that's very. I guess they were trying to be creative because both binary and
A
bison start with a B.
non-binary bison.
So yeah, non-binary bison. And
If
so you're
anything,
seeing
that's funny because anything in the animal kingdom, it's like it's one dude with all of the chicks.
yeah, well, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
that's
not
the animal
really the
kingdom for you.
non-binary. It's you either get all of them or you get none of them.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But I do think we are seeing a movement though, that people are starting to realize how crazy this is. I think the more that I think this is the one area where I think social media is really powerful and is really good because I see a lot of disgusting things on my feed
Mhm.
posted by conservative outlets about drag performers performing for babies, for toddlers. Just really disgusting stuff um, that I wouldn't have known if the internet didn't exist. So in that case, I am happy that social media is there. Obviously, I have some mixed feelings because I think social media causes a lot of other bad problems. But in this case, I think that it's helpful. And so I think it could go two ways. Actually, no, wait, I think it could go two things can happen at the same time. The left gets crazier and people get more sane and they start shutting this stuff down. Like to a certain extent, as horrible as it sounds, there's part of me that wants them to get bolder. There's a part of me that
Yeah, but
wants them to
they've
do
got
it.
to do it quickly before people become desensitized to something like this.
Well,
If they
so
take their time and let people get desensitized to this, then when something worse rolls around, we're going to see this. I think we'll see the similar reaction that we've had for the past decade, which is it's
I
just a
think that you're
few crazy people. Like as long as they leave everybody else alone,
right.
we're fine. And then they're not leaving people alone, and they
Right.
just kind of keep going with it.
Yeah. I think that that is a real possibility there. But what I would say, because there's a specific person that I'm thinking of. There's a guy named Eli Ehrlich, um, who has decided to be very open and brazen about providing extra prescription hormones to minors
Hmm.
specifically. Um, this is not anything that is disputed by him. He's very open and brazen about it. And to a certain extent, I'm actually a little bit glad because we need someone that's so stupid that really I want them to misread the room and be like, oh, yeah, this is totally okay to give these hormones to kids, and he's admitting it straight up, and he's gloating about it. He's gloating,
Hmm.
and I think, in my opinion, I feel like the tide is slightly changing because we have a lot of detransitioners coming out, basically saying that this is the worst decision that I've ever made in my life, and I deeply, deeply regret this. And then you have someone like Eli Ehrlich who really thinks that he can do this, and that there aren't some states that are starting to catch on. I
Hmm.
think Tennessee is a great example of that. I think that they've made a huge move that I think is going to start the shift. But I don't disagree with you in the sense that conservatives and those who are also in the center, and also those who are classic liberals, need to move a little bit faster on this. They
Yeah,
can't
then they
move
need
this
to
slowly.
react a bit quicker.
Yes, absolutely. And so if we don't react quick enough, then that advantage that we have of them being so brazen and so open about it isn't really our advantage anymore because
Hmm.
if we don't move on it, they're just going to keep going.
Yeah, I agree.
And we should have stopped it a long time ago. And
Hmm.
this is what the left is doing is a result of our lack of movement to catch it before it got bad enough.
Hmm.
And so I feel like we Republicans bear some of the blame for this.
Oh, certainly. I feel the same way about the way abortion came about and just how slow things were to react amongst Republicans, conservatives, to stopping it from becoming a full term abortion because we were getting there. Those bills were coming in, so that type of stuff, and yeah, like this whole kids show, like, I've honestly, I think I've always had a problem with the idea that I always thought it was stupid that for rated R movies, like after a certain time, it was like, okay, no minors admitted or nobody under 16 admitted into a rated R movie after like 9 p.m. or something. I can't remember what it is.
Mhm.
I'm like, wait, so they can see in the daytime? What's the difference about this movie between the daytime and the nighttime? And it's okay if they're accompanied with a parent. I don't remember which movie it was, but there was one that I went to see that was rated R for violence or whatever. And there was somebody in there with like a toddler or a baby. And it's like, I get it. Maybe you couldn't find a babysitter, but don't bring your kid to this movie. Same thing
Yeah,
applies to
it's a
these
level.
drag shows. If you're an adult and you want to go to them, go to them. Don't care. Don't drag your kids there. Don't bring your kids. If you're attending, like I don't condone that on any level.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you have a group of parents too that are becoming honestly, I think there are some people that are completely unfit to be parents. If I'm being
Hmm.
completely honest, I think there is a level of mental illness as well. I don't think that's always the case. I think some of it is just genuinely weak morals. That they've become so progressive that they've become insane, and their
There was
kids pay the price for that.
Yeah, for sure. I saw a short clip this morning. I don't know who it was. A female politician of one of the states with an M. I think it was Missouri. I might be wrong about that. I'd have to pull it up and see. But the gist of what she was saying was, and it was, to affirm whatever your kid's gender dysphoria is we need to listen to our kids and believe them and help support them in whatever it is they believe, is essentially what she was saying. And it was like,
So if my kid says that he is Superman and that he is capable of leaping off of a building and flying, am I
you
supposed
toss
to
him off
believe
that
him?
building, Jordan. Toss him off that
That's the
building.
thing. Kids don't have a strong sense of reality.
No,
They
but
don't
they do
have
have a
that
strong
grip
sense of
yet.
imagination.
They do. It's one of the best things about kids. It's my favorite
Hmm.
thing about kids is that they have such a great imagination, and that they can do those things.
These adults are giving them
However,
a
their
run for their
imagine
money, though.
well, they're making their imagination into some type of reality. But also another thing that's important to note is that obviously these kids are very innocent, but you genuinely have narcissistic parents
Hmm.
that ride off of this. For example, there is a YouTube family that they post about their transgender child on YouTube. That's kind of their whole shtick. And it is a boy that they have allowed to believe that he's a girl. And
Hmm.
of course, he can't understand the ramifications of what these parents are doing. And so when you watch this video, this woman is so narcissistic, where she's obviously using her boy as a platform. Um,
Hmm.
and it's what's really interesting as she did a video about addressing the hate. Um, and a lot of people in the comments surprisingly were not in support of this woman, where they're basically saying, we're not trying to hate on you, but we see that there is a fundamental issue with what you're doing and that this is wrong, that this kid is too young. He doesn't understand, and you're
Hmm.
being a narcissist. And most of these people were 100% correct. And I don't think they were all conservatives. All right, like let's not be silly here. Um, I think one of the things that I have noticed about the left in recent times is that they're not going after just conservatives. They will go after anyone who gets in their way. You
Yep.
think about someone like Tim Pool, right? Tim Pool is not a conservative,
No.
but he opposes a lot of the things that the left stand for. And because he does, the left goes after him, right?
Hmm.
So it's not just conservatives. This is not a left versus right type of battle. It's evil leftist ideology against anyone that has common sense and believes that it's wrong. That those are the two
Hmm.
groups that you have going on there.
Yeah. You think about all the other people they've gone after: Joe Rogan, Dave
Mm-hmm.
Chappelle, Bill Burr.
Mhm.
Um, what's
Chris
his
Rock
name?
now, I think they're gonna
Chris
start going
Rock,
after him.
Russell
Yeah.
Brand, Bill Maher's even been taking quite a bit of hits as well because
Mhm.
he's not budging with them. Even Piers Morgan.
Mhm. Yeah.
As the comments always inevitably, they sound like a bot or a drone because they're always like, well, the world's going to shit when Piers Morgan is the voice of reason and sound judgment. And it's like, look, there does seem to be a point where people are like, all right, no, I'm not going any further along with this. You guys just sound ridiculous at this point.
Right, it's actual insanity, and Bill Maher's not stupid. He's a
Mm-mm.
brash man, and I think he's a rude man, but he's not stupid.
I
Piers
will
Morgan's
take
not
brash and
completely
rude, just like I did with Trump, over anybody that's a smooth talker, that's polite, and then it's just a snake in the grass.
yeah, agreed with that. I do agree with that. And I don't think Piers Morgan is super duper dumb. Like, there's plenty of smart people that believe in gun control. And I disagree with Piers Morgan on that, but I don't think he's dumb.
Mm-mm.
Um, so yeah, you're starting to see kind of a little bit of a split here. And I hope that it gets us to a place where we start really addressing this insanity more. I think what Ron DeSantis is doing with Hyatt is a good move, because alcohol is a huge point of sales for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
places, restaurants, bars, places where anything social happens, including really nice hotels. And so I think if he's able to do that, I think that sends a really strong and clear message. But I think it also gives other states and other cities a guideline of what they can do if drag shows happen, or if sexually indecent things happen in front of minors.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good strategy, and so I can appreciate Ron DeSantis for that, for sure.
Yeah. Certainly. And before we move on to our next topic of the podcast, while I was out in Seattle, gorgeous city, by the way, despite some of their more liberal policies. And unfortunately, it does result in a lot of transients, vagabonds, homeless people. Not as bad as New York City or even Austin, Texas, but I did kind of go there in the wintertime. So I imagine it gets a lot worse in the summer. Um, it wasn't as bad as San Francisco or San Jose, and I stay far away from Los Angeles when I'm out there in California. But regardless, the city was pretty, and everything else beyond the city was even better because it was mountains. But I did get my
Yeah,
first
that's nice.
uh, unisex public bathroom, or all gender bathroom experience.
Like a gender neutral bathroom.
Fully gender neutral. Now, what I will add as a stipulation is that this bathroom was located in a building where you had to get a key card to go visit it. So, they kept it locked basically. It was mostly for employees, but you could request access to it. So I did have to go get a key card, which was both good and bad. The good part is that I get into the bathroom and it's completely empty. There's nobody in there. And then while I'm using the facilities, it dawns on me, what if somebody else comes in here? I'm the only guy. What if there's a woman? Like, my initial thought
Mm.
is I'm going to keep my distance. I don't want to make her feel uncomfortable. Do it in the parking lots at night, or wherever else, especially like I've had times walk out and it's like, oh, I can tell this girl is probably parked right next to me in the parking lot because she's kind of beelining it for her car, and I see my car up there. So it's either like trying to light up my car so she knows my car happens to be next to hers, or I'll go walk in a different row and then come back to my car. Just little things to go out of the way and
Mhm.
not make somebody feel followed. Crossing to the other side of the street so you're not on the same sidewalk for the next couple of blocks, whatever it is. Uh,
Mhm.
it occurred to me that if there was to be somebody in there and they wanted to make an accusation, I'm pretty much screwed in there. So it kind of like my
'Cause the
attitude
woman is always to
shifted.
be believed.
Yeah, and people can call me like being fearful or whatever, and it's like, yeah, well, we've seen worse happen to men for helping a kid in public, and being accused of trying to child nap them, or God knows the amount of false rape accusations or sexual assault accusations that are out there.
Mhm.
And it's like suddenly my mindset went from being like, okay, how can I help somebody not feel uncomfortable if they come into this restroom, and to how do I get out of here as fast as possible? Because now I'm
Yeah.
actually really uncomfortable, which was a scenario when it came to these type of all gender bathrooms that I had not actually considered. I always thought that it would be the women that felt threatened by having men around them, which I think is still true. And it had never occurred to me the reverse of that. So I actually was the one
Yeah.
that ended up becoming highly uncomfortable. Luckily, nobody else came in, and I got in and out as quick as possible. But it was an uncomfortable thought, and I didn't like the idea of sharing a bathroom with women. It seemed like an invasion of privacy, because women's and men's bathrooms are just they're so different. They're very,
Well,
very
yeah.
different.
Regardless of what the left says, there are fundamental differences between men and women. Like, I mean, as a woman myself, like, it is to me, it's always been super weird that y'all have urinals. I've always thought that was really just kinda really weird, but that's it's a guy thing. Like,
Mhm,
I don't know what this gender neutral bathroom looked like, but I don't wanna see a guy peeing. Like, I don't wanna
mhm.
do that. Like,
It was
that's
mostly
weird.
stalls. I actually don't
Um,
recall if there were urinals or not.
well, I mean, that's good.
I feel like there might have been, but I don't recall specifically if there was or not. Um,
But also too, like, you've brought in a good point where I think it's very simple. There are bad men, and there are
mhm,
also bad women, right?
mhm,
You have a woman who really thinks that she can get away with anything, that is opportunistic, who can use charm and beauty, and maybe manipulate a situation and then say something else happened. And obviously, there's no security cameras in a restroom because that's
nope,
weird.
because that's a privacy
And so
concern.
she Right, and so can say, um, she can say whatever she wants, and she'll be believed. I do think about, that Bible story with Joseph and Potiphar's wife,
Yeah,
where
yeah, that's a good one.
Joseph was a honorable man, and she kept asking him sleep with her, and he said no, and Potiphar's wife took it upon herself to punish him for
Mhm,
it. Now, obviously, not every woman is, Potiphar's wife of that status, so to speak. But to a certain extent, I'd actually say that we have elevated women to that status of they can do no wrong. With Potiphar's wife, it was hardly even questioned whether or not Potiphar's wife was telling the truth or not. Why? Because she had that status. Women have that status now, in my opinion. And I think a lot of it is because of this push towards feminism that women can do no wrong and that women are incapable of lying about something. And what I think that this really does to women, and this is the part that's most heartbreaking, is that if all women just took it upon themselves to tell the truth, we could actually believe victims of real rape, of real sexual assault. Like, their lying cheapens that. And so it would even sadden me that we'd even have to question that. But because of horrible women that don't want to tell the truth and want their moment of fame, that other women that have gone through a horrible tragedy of being raped or sexually assaulted have to be questioned and scrutinized to that level. And it truly is a disgusting, horrible thing.
mhm.
But I think you've brought up a very, very excellent point. And I think a lot of men think that as well. I don't think you're the only guy that thinks that way.
No, there's I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but there was the recent TikTok trend with girls, filming themselves weightlifting or whatever, and then complaining about guys that would look at them.
Yep.
Now, whether those guys were just admiring the amount of weight or whatever exercise they were doing, or they were admiring their physique, or they did have lewd thoughts, we don't know, because it's just a camera and it's not particularly helpful. Or you're wearing clothes that are far too tight and showing way too much, and it's just catching people's eyes, as things naturally tend to
Mhm.
do. Almost immediately afterwards, there was a trend on TikTok of girls that would get stuck weightlifting or would need a spotter, and you'd see guys in the background and nobody comes to help her. like bar, falling on
I can't
chest,
imagine why they
into
wouldn't
the
do that.
bench
I
and
can't
don't come
imagine why.
over. Oh, he can't be like, oh, let me come over and help. It's like, I don't need your help. Like, what are you doing? Is because of instances like that, which is funny because it's right in line with what happened with.
Mhm.
I remember there was a poll that was done about, if to men, if you saw a lost child in a grocery store, amusement park, wherever it is, would you help that kid? And majority of men said, no, not doing it, because one wrong accusation in public that you're trying to kidnap a children might
Mhm.
get you, and has
Yeah.
gotten some people beaten to death. Uh,
And it could ruin your life, and you could
Yeah,
not be able to get a
you're not
job.
gonna put yourself in that
Yeah.
situation. Yep, seen that. They won't stop to help women on the side of the road with their cars anymore. There's a lot of things that men are not doing, and I think part of it is probably because chivalry isn't really taught anymore, but now it's
I think that's
also
part
not
of it.
really accepted. It started off with not women not wanting guys to hold the door open for them or pay for the first date. And now we've gotten to the point where it's becoming life threatening, and men have fully taken a step back, and they don't want to get involved anymore.
Yeah, I think that is definitely true. I will say though, as an encouragement, I do think that there are, depending on what town you're in or what city you're in, that culture definitely shifts. Like
Hmm.
for example, I go to a gym where law enforcement and military is very much an important thing to them. Um,
Hmm.
and they even have all the flags up on the walls. And what I have noticed about this gym compared to any other place that I go is that a man is always willing to open the door for me. Always.
Hmm.
Like you can tell it is something they go out of their way to do.
Hmm.
And one of the things I try to do to them is I look them in the eye, even very quickly, and I look them in the eye and I say, thank you. And you can tell there's an acknowledgement and there's a level of respect between the two of us. And then we go on our way.
Hmm.
So I think that there are certain pockets of places where chivalry isn't dead. Um, but I would say that they're very few and they're far in between at this point because of that genuine fear that you're going to be, one, videotaped against your will. Because let's think about this, because these women that are in these public gyms, um, these men aren't being like, "Oh yeah, you can totally film me. That's totally cool." Like they film them without them knowing, and then they blast them online,
Yeah,
which is
it's
ridiculous.
I don't think legally they have any recourse there though. Like, you're in public and
I which is
there are cameras
unfortunate.
in the gym. Like, there's already security cameras in
Yeah.
the gym, and so this is where it's like when people don't want to be recorded because somebody's in public doing a recording, whatever it might be. There's no reasonable expectation to privacy, so they don't.
Right,
I don't know.
but the question is, I think there's a higher call to decency that
Yeah.
these women don't feel. It's not decent to do that to a man, especially one if you're wearing tight shorts. Like I hate women. I hate to break this to you, and even conservatives, I think, would get mad at me for saying this. If you are wearing tight shorts, expect a guy to glance at it. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's just, and some men are very good about it where they look away. When they're done, they look away. They're like, okay, that caught my eye in a half a second. And as a decent man, I'm looking away. But there's some men that will keep looking. And that is
Hmm.
just the reality of the situation. I don't know what to say about it. Now, if you get harassed, if they're touching you, like that's a completely different story.
Yeah.
But to get mad at a glance, there's a lot of different interpretations for why man might be glancing at you or glancing at a specific part of your body. I see people in my gym all the time, and I think it's not good. So they wear super tight booty shorts and a sports bra. Like,
Hmm.
why would you not expect someone to stare at you? Like, I stare at them too. One, because they're not supposed to be doing it, and two, they actually have a really good physique, and you're like, oh man, I really like to have that physique. That sounds really great.
Yeah, like, to
But
some
you can't
extent, I
expect
can kind
people.
of understand why people would like. I don't like the big open tank top shirts that guys wear, where it's like you go from the shoulder strap and then it's connected to like the last stitching at the very bottom. It's just big and open. I was like, I don't like them, but at the same time, I understand people that want to show off their physique. Um,
I think I think for me, like when it comes to the tight shorts, I will and like the leggings, here's where I stand on it. I don't mind it, and one of the biggest reasons is that when I'm doing exercises, it's a lot easier for me to do them if I'm in tighter clothes.
Mhm.
It helps a lot more with what I'm doing. But with that, I also recognize that a man might glance at my butt or might look at me. Or maybe they're just looking at you because they're finishing a set and that's what's in their eye line and they're just looking around like a normal human being.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, if they wanna I with guys' shirts, I don't know. I think it's definitely kinda egotistical in my opinion, but
I
at the same time, they're
it feels worse than being shirtless. I don't know why. And by worse,
I
I
think it's because
mean,
it's so obvious.
yeah, I think it almost draws more attention because it looks like you have a shirt with huge rips in it. But it's like I don't really have a problem if the guys want to work out shirtless compared to those shirts, which I feel like are like we're complying to the gym's rules by wearing a top, but we're gonna wear the smallest bit possible. I mean, it's right up there with any beaches or pools that have guidelines on swimsuits, and girls show up with the absolute minimum possible.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think in my opinion, I think it would be nice that if you're in a public gym, I don't think it will hurt you for both men and women to wear like a full shirt,
Hmm.
right? Like this is my rule. Like if I can see like anyone's nipples, whether it's a man or a woman's nipples, it's probably not a good thing to wear. Like and it's
Hmm.
not a double standard because I'm applying it to both sides of the aisle where I'm like, no, I think that you should not have your nipples showing. That's just my opinion. But I would say though, like if you are running, and again, this is all just my opinion. If you're running, like for me, I wear a sports bra and some shorts. And the reason for that is because I sweat so much when I'm running that it doesn't even make sense for me to do it. And so if I see a guy running without a shirt, I actually don't really care because I totally understand. Where I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, like you're gonna just soak up that shirt anyway. Like just run without a shirt and face the consequences.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah.
think when it comes to
I'm in
a
the same
public
boat for that.
yeah. But when it comes to, like, a public gym where you have a membership there and there's an expectation that you do a certain thing and you choose not to do it, it's almost that defiance that kind of gets to me a little bit,
Hmm.
and that you're willing to, like, cut your shirt in such a way they call them, like, stringers for the guys,
Yeah.
um, where they, like, have, like, in the back, like, there's literally, like, this much fabric, in the back that covers, um and it's the women's equivalent of, like, a skimpy sports bra, like, that's kind of how I
Hmm.
think of it. I'd rather women not wear sports bras to the gym, and I'd rather men not wear those stringers to the gym. I think that we
Wait,
can
did you say
all
you'd rather women
wear
not
a
wear
shirt.
sports bras? Or are you saying
No,
just
I'm sorry,
sports
like,
bras?
covered. Yeah, just sports bras. So,
Okay.
obviously, I wear a sports bra, but I wear a shirt on top of it.
Hmm.
Um, that's how I do it. Yeah, we just went on a rabbit trail there,
Yeah,
for
long
a little
rabbit
bit.
trail. I actually probably have to call time for the podcast, for your sake of your throat.
Yeah,
And,
for those who don't know, I am sick. If you can't tell, I'm a little slower and I'm not quite as fast talking. But I think it would be a good idea to call it, because if I keep going, I'll probably
it's
damage my
gonna get
throat more, and
worse.
I need some hot tea as well.
No,
But you'll have to tell us,
you need a hot toddy. That's what you need.
a hot hottie?
Hot toddy.
What is that?
It's basically a concoction of, like, whiskey or bourbon with lemon juice and some honey.
Ooh, that's probably actually not a bad idea. That's
Actually
actually a
turns
really
out
good
pretty great.
idea.
You can add a little bit of water to take the edge off of it a bit, but that warmed up, very nice. I would probably just add, like,
Ooh. Ooh.
maybe I mean, depending on your tolerance of liquor, but maybe half or so the ratio of liquor, just add some, like, warm water or hot water to it and lemon juice
Ooh,
and honey.
okay. Yeah, I
That's
actually
pretty
might have to
fantastic on
try
a sore
that.
throat.
Yeah, I think Steven has one too, so maybe if he comes over, we might both we might both have one and see if that helps a little bit.
I will say bourbon
But
better
it's
than
been a
whiskey only because the flavor there's a bit more flavor to it.
honestly, both of it burns for me, so it doesn't matter which one it is. But I will probably end up taking you up on that offer.
Cool. Let me know how it
But
goes. Next time on Resident
yeah,
Skeptics, Jordan lets us know how a hot
yeah.
toddy is a home remedy.
I will I'll ask my dad if he can make me one. But yeah, we'll have to catch up on this specifically, and hopefully when we're back next time, um, my throat will be a little bit better, and we
Mhm.
actually have, some really great guests coming up. I know we haven't had as many guests, but we are excited to be adding those back in, and it also seems like you guys really like our reaction videos, so if there's anything that you want us to react to, you can email it to us, you can put it in the comments, you can message us, and we'll be sure once we have enough of them that we will do another reaction video at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you
Um,
better go get some
yeah.
rest
Yeah.
and get better.